Hi everyone. Thanks for dropping in. I was just wondering what you're working on today. Are you hand sewing, quilting, hand quilting? What's going on? Anyway, I decided a little while ago to take a big adventure and straighten up my sewing room a bit. And I realized that I have lots of pillow pin cushions, like the one that we made in the fall, which is my pincushion phone stand. I have lots of pin cushions, but I don't have many places to put my sewing clips, and more we are using clips for quilting. And when I looked at the package I had it in, a little plastic bag, I thought, that's not really a good sign for a sewer and a quilter to be using a plastic bag for a container. So I went online and started looking for some containers. And I found these cute little boxes. Now, they're not necessarily for clips, and of course, they're for many things, but I thought they would be cute for that, for the ones that I'm using at home. I'll have to do another little one for carrying them with me, but this is a handy little one to store clips or bobbins or thread or covered candies, candies that are wrapped. I meant to say wrapped candies. So I thought, okay, let's talk about these for a while. I have a pattern that I'm going to put at the below this video so you can follow the pattern, and she does a much better job than I instructing you how to make it. I just wanted to talk about them a bit and show the different ways that we can finish them or embellish them or decide what we want to do a little bit different than the ones that you see. Now, when I started making this one, I thought, boy, this looks familiar, and it's really the beginnings of a microwave bowl. It's exactly the same. You have your 3 layers of fabric, 2 layers of fabric, your 3 layers total, 2 layers of fabric, the inside and the outside, and a layer of Pellon or batting or whatever you want to make for the interfacing inside to make it a little stiffer. And then when you go to measure to make your seams, of course, you go in the middle, you fold your fabric in half. Here I said I wasn't going to show you how to make them, and I'm talking about it a lot, but just to explain further how we get going. Fold your fabric in half and measure down a certain amount, sew that, and turn it right side out, and top stitch around the edge and press. And instead of the microwave bowl, which the sides go straight up, these are a little longer, and you just fold them over and you can finish them with a button or a charm or a fancy stitch, whatever pleases you. I thought they were really cute and have lots of uses. They could be sitting in your hallway for collecting keys so that you're not always losing them, or maybe that's just me. They could be collecting things in your den or have a small sewing kit inside or a few things for your sewing. Anyway, this one is, and I had to write them down because I have several. This is a 10-inch square, so you can use a, what do you call that? Oh my gosh, I can't think of the name, but 10-inch squares. They come in pre-cuts. And on this one, the sides are 2.5 inches high, and the fold is about 1.5 inches. So therefore, your bottom would be 5. Your bottom is about 5 square. So I used iron-on Pellon in this one, and it gives it lots of shape. It'll stand up. I used just the lightweight one for this one, and because it's smaller, you don't need it really sturdy. It's not going to go anywhere, but it holds a fair amount, 5 inches across and 5 inches wide in there. And I thought it was cute. And of course, it matches my pincushion / phone holder. So then I thought, I really like that. So I decided to make another one. This one is 10 inches square, and look at the difference in the size. It seems like a lot larger, but then again, you're getting 2 inches on length and width. But in this one, I didn't sew up the seams. I left them, and that gives you that bowl effect and a larger shape on the bottom. It's hard to believe it's a 10-inch square and a 12-inch square. So on this one, in the small 10-inch one, you sew up your seam, and I just tacked it inside, which helps a little bit for the sturdiness of the sides. On this one, you don't sew it up. You measure your triangle, but then you just tack it. Instead of sewing it all the way down, you tack it on the top. I went back and forth about 3 stitches up and down a few times, which leaves you with a triangle here. You fold that over and you get that inverted V or that pleat design. And I thought that was really cute because it's not only a different shape, it's a lot larger, although it's hard to believe it's not a much larger piece of fabric. And again, you're going to top stitch around and sew on buttons or whatever you would like to add to the sides. You don't have to add anything. You can just tack a little stitch in there and keep it so it won't be flapping up and down, so it stays in place. But it kind of adds to it a little design idea to put the button or whatever on the side. So those are 2 sizes and 2 shapes. The box shape, and I call it circular. I know it's not a complete circle. And the ones that were circular, I did see them and I thought those are neat, but this sews up a lot faster because you're not having to put in the separate circle in the bottom. They are nice though, and I have certainly seen a lot of patterns for them. This was just something I wanted to try because it was cute and different. The third one, because I couldn't stop, it's I went more with the square boxy type again. And in this one, this is 15 inches square. You have your 3 layers again. You have your outer fabric, your inner, and I used a fleece iron-on with this one because I knew it was large. It would need a little more stability to hold it up. So you measure your seams, whatever the measurement is, and there is a guide for measurement when I give you the pattern. You measure your seams, and that's where you can differ after that point, after you do your measurement. Now, you turn them right side out. I top stitched around the top, and I have 4 different corners here to show you whichever one you would like. Now, the first one is right here. The first one, I measured my seam, and I am going to sew that seam down, just like the box type here, because I just like the look of it. So I probably would sew that down. The inside, the seam that you have on the inside, I'm just going to tack it, and again, it just gives a little more stable corner there. But if you want to try something different on this one, I didn't sew it down. I did the same as the bowl style, and I just brought it, the seam to the center. I tacked it a wee bit here, then you stand it up, and I folded this tail that's up at the top back and tacked it on either side here. And you have like a little triangular spot. Excuse me, this is what I dropped. And you can keep your seam ripper, which is probably the most used in my house. You can have your seam ripper or marking pen or something in there. So it's just something different to add to the design. So far you have your plain corner sewn down. You have your little pocket on the inside. And this one, the pocket goes on the outside so that you see what the inside of this one looks like. You tack it at the top. Don't sew it down. Turn it around and tack on either side here. And that gives you this shape on the outside. And you can put your other seam ripper or whatever in the other pocket. So you have a pocket on the inside, a pocket on the outside, a flat seam towards the bottom. And in the fourth one, what did I do? Oh yeah, in the fourth one, I brought it together. And I didn't sew it again. And I just did your folding I don't have that right. I folded it as you would for one of your outside seams. Only this time I folded it down and you have a little topping like that. Right now, there you go. So you have a little bit of the inside fabric showing through. So there's 4 different ways you can finish your corners. Of course, you probably want to put them all 4 the same way, and I will when I finish this. I just left them unfinished, as you'll see. It's just I'm still in the flat square stage, just to show you the different ways you could finish it. It's just your flat piece of fabric. Now, when I was putting the 3 layers together, I took the inside and the batting, and I made a little bit of side. I quilted it sideways a wee bit. I thought it would make it sturdier, and I think it does. But I also did the back and a thinner layer of batting, and it was way too thick. So I took it apart and took the second layer of batting out and took the quilting out of the outer part. 1 layer is enough, especially if it's quite thick. But you see how easy you start with your square. Look how easy I took it apart. Well, I can put it together almost as easily and quickly. They're fast to do. They're fun. Well, they're addictive, as you can obviously tell. I wanted to try them in different sizes just to see what size I want and see the difference. And with the different sizes, I wanted to go with different shapes. You might want yours all the same. You might not like any of them. You might look up other shapes online and see what ones you like. Just wanted to give the idea of storage. My last one is a fat quarter, and it's 19 inches square. It's an odd size. I just was lucky enough to get a fat quarter that was 19 inches, so I just cut a little bit off the other length and went with 19. It was a piece of fabric I had. It wasn't a fat quarter in the middle. Usually you don't get a fat quarter that's 19 wide. But I thought, okay, let's go a little different on this one. I wanted something for a little larger, maybe patterns, or to fold my fat quarters and keep them in a container, or whatever. Maybe magazines, small books. You could put them in your den or wherever you do any hand sewing and just put your whole project in and carry it with you. Now, I did all of these sides. I folded all of these sides and sewed them down, tacked them on the corners, and it does make it stand up better. Because, of course, you have several layers here when you have your outside and inside and batting, and then the 2 layers of your corner. So it does stand up a little bit better when you just tack them in. But if it's smaller, it doesn't matter. But with the bigger one, it does stay better. It's a good size. The seam, the height of the sides are 4.5, and the bottom is like a 10-inch square. So that's fairly large. Remember, when you're measuring your seam, when you're going in to measure, and when you sew your seam, the height or length of your seam is the height of your side of your bowl or box. So if you want a higher one, measure a little deeper. If you don't want it this high, I wouldn't go lower for what I'm looking for on this one, but you certainly could. But the measurement of your seam is the height of your side. And quickly, whatever your measurement of your square is, your 2 seams and your bottom make up that measurement minus however wide your seam is to be sewing. So therefore, say if you had 19 and your bottom is 10, these are going to be 4.5, and then minus the ½ inch, a quarter for each inch at the top where you're turning it. So at the top, I did, not only did I do the top stitch when I turned it right side out, I did a little bit of fancier stitch around till I got to the really thick part here, and I didn't want to break my needle, so I stopped and left a little space there. But a fancier stitch, again, that holds it a little steadier. And on the bottom of this one, when I still just had the outside fabric and the pellon, I made a square around the 10 inches. That's what I knew my size would be. I did an X each way. And when I did that, it makes it easier. I know exactly where it's going to fold. When I iron it, it helps it stand up better. It really helps you if you do it and just from one side to the other. Should have left this up from one side to the other, and across sideways, and then I sewed the around the perimeter of what the bottom would be. So I thought they were pretty cute, and I'm anxious to see if you make any and what they look like. Um, they're certainly they would be cute gift, and you could make something for someone and put it in the gift and give the two together. You could wrap a little present and put it in there and give that also. Um, Something like this you could use for novels or paperback books or even small hardcover books or whatever, by your reading chair or remote controls with it or whatever. Um, so those are pretty much, I'm trying to think of hints and tricks. The hints are don't use batting or lining or pellon on both the front and the back, the two separate, and then put them together. It makes it pretty stiff. The smaller it is, the thinner the pellon or interfacing you need to use. You can use pellon or batting or whatever you like to use as something to give it a base. But you don't need it too stiff when they're smaller. If it's larger, you might want to. I thought I would try one. Actually, it was going to be this. This was my trial one, the pink and rose color with the white, because I tried both sides with the batting on both sides, and that was just too much. It was too thick to sew really, and it took space, so you had less space for what you're putting inside. Then I thought, okay, I'll put a sheet of Soft and Stable that use in totes. But of course, that was way too thick. So you might want to play with them a bit and see what's best for you. But it's because they do up so quickly, you do have time to play and see what you'd like to try and see how you'd like to do it and vary it to meet your needs and your likes. So I hope you have fun doing that. I'm going to provide a few websites, and of course, there are many, many. And there's websites for fabric boxes, there's websites for fabric bowls, there's baskets, of course. Some are similar to this, but they're long and narrow. I thought that would be a neat one. If you made one like this, but not square, make it rectangular now that you know how to go about it, and make it so it's about 8.5 inches wide, because I think patterns are about 8 inches wide. And so you'd have a kind of a longer, skinnier one and have all your patterns lined up. That'd be easy to look at. So you decide what you would like to do with them or how you want to adjust them. But remember, when you're sewing, remember to stop every now and then and exercise. It's good for you to have exercise. But I was thinking, quilters really are athletes in a way. And some of the sports that we take part in are running. We run to the quilt shop. We hurdle over piles of books. We lift large quantities of fabric. We race to finish a project. We kick around new ideas. We cycle through magazines and quilting patterns. And we spin yarns about our quilting adventures. And last of all, we swim through the pages of quilt magazines. So stay active and productive, and pretty soon you'll be on the Olympics. So thanks for dropping in. See you next time. Bye.